And welcome back to the Hot Lap, where we are talking Monaco qualifying, the most significant qualifying session in the F1 calendar. And a massive congratulations to Charles Leclerc getting that pole. It never looked in doubt, did it? Well, yeah, I guess it kind of did when you watched the qualifying. Maybe not in the practice, he was kind of favourite. But then you started to question Q1, Q2. You're like, what? Has he really turned up? It felt like he hadn't turned up, but he did in the end, getting that Q3 result. Fantastic lap in a place where Ayrton Senna has done really well, and then there's a sense of almost irony there because Max Verstappen could have got his 9 pole streak record, beating Ayrton Senna, and it's almost somewhat fitting that he failed to beat Ayrton Senna. He's obviously equalled him on the 8 poles in a row at a place where Ayrton Senna was absolutely synonymous with, qualifying and the race, albeit Monaco. So let's have a look. Let's have a look at that provisional grid. And it is provisional. There's a couple of reasons, but it's Leclerc, Piastri. So it's basically Ferrari, McLaren. It's almost like we're back in the. It's almost like we're back in the 90s, late 90s, early 2000s, isn't it? So Leclerc and Piastri. Fantastic front row. Leclerc's really going to have to go because I think Piastri, unlike Lando Norris, has got that tiny bit more aggression in him, hasn't he? So Leclerc, Piastri, Sainz, Norris, and then we have the top Mercedes driver, Russell, Verstappen in 6th, Hamilton 7th, Tsunoda 8th, Albon in 9th, Gasly in 10th, 11th for Ocon, 12th Hulkenberg, 13th Ricciardo. Disappointing for Ricciardo. Fair play to both Ocon and Gasly, 10th and 11th, fantastic. Hulkenberg just missing out there. Stroll, okay, you beat your teammate, so you did your job, I guess. Magnussen 15th, and a disappointing Alonso. Sargent, kind of where you expected him. What's happened to Sergio Perez? Behind Logan Sargent. And then Bottas and Zhou on the back of the grid. Yeah, I would not have necessarily expected that going in. But that is your grid as it stands, because there may well be a BUT at the end of it. Yes, there may well be a but. The reason being is because Carlos Sainz, he is off potentially to the stewards at the time of race. P3's under threat. He's been summoned to the stewards. This was about an hour ago on planetf1.com. He may lose out on his P3 starting spot on Monaco Grand Prix after he's alleged to have impeded Alex Albon in qualifying. And that was Carlos Sainz may lose out on his P3. But I figured it was the other way around. I don't quite get it. Because there was a very clear Alex Albon may have impeded him. And then there was rumours of Lando Norris. So I don't think he's going to lose it. If he does, I guess maybe we'll do another video. But Lewis Hamilton also reporting that, yeah, it is the best he did. And it was George Russell that had the go faster bits on his Mercedes. Now, when you look at the difference between the two in Q3, it literally was less than a tenth. So you could make a very good argument that had Lewis had the go faster bits on, he potentially would have been 5th. But Russell, he was out-qualified by, let me show you here, I'm going to quickly transfer it so you can see for yourself. When you look, it was literally Russell. Look, it was 1,000th between Norris and Russell. How close was it? I mean, had Russell increased by, let's just say, another 10th, he would have been 3rd. Another couple of 10th, he would have been 2nd. I mean, this was, other than Leclerc, who had an okay gap, it was so close. I mean, even Lewis Hamilton increasing by a 10th would have put him in 4th. This is how close Monaco is. Now, if we look at the Q3 times, I mean, the difference between Verstappen in Q1, he did a 1:11.7, and Sergio Perez, I imagine it wasn't that a 1:12.060. So it's not that massive a gap. It's like 3 tenths. And yet Sergio Perez is out of qualifying in Q3. I don't think we can completely 100% blame him because the Red Bull did look like a handful. And I think had Verstappen put it on pole, you could make an argument it would have been an almost better job than that Imola pole position, and very much deserved. But on his last lap, as he was going into Sandoval, he ended up clipping the wall, and regrettably that was regrettably that was that. So, and I mean, let's talk then about some of the drivers in qualifying before we go. Biggest, so, I mean, obviously, Sergio Perez, we've just spoken about him. Massive, massive disappointment in a way, but only a few tenths off Max, but still, yeah. This is the difference maybe between a good and maybe a really good driver. And if this, as we said last time, if this is going to keep on happening, Red Bull are going to potentially start to question whether it is a good idea on keeping Sergio Perez because of that Constructors' Championship. So, for example, Mr. Verstappen's not doing particularly well, and then you've got McLaren and Ferrari taking all those points out of Red Bull. As I mentioned, Lewis Hamilton here, I think he was kind of disappointed, but very philosophical with 7th. As we mentioned, it's George Russell. It's George Russell with the go faster bits on the car. So yeah, I think so. Could he beat George in the race? Maybe. It's interesting that on the third row it's going to be Russell and Verstappen. They have had a bit of history, and I think credit to Max, where I've criticised him before for throwing the dummy out the car when things aren't going his way. There's a couple of swears, but I think he was very philosophical and very measured in his approach. So I think fair play to Max. We didn't have any tiny toddler tantrums that he sometimes has. I mean, yes, all drivers moan. Hamilton whines on the radio a lot as well, but yeah, no tantrums. So fair play to Max. Really philosophical. I guess it's probably because he thinks he's still favourite for the championship, which, let's be fair, he very much is going into Monaco. But for me, I mean, Charles Leclerc is one of the men of qualifying, one of the men of the weekend. Now, can he? We did a whole video about the Monaco curse. I suggest you check it out. But can Charles Leclerc win? I think he can. You've got to now think he's had the pace all weekend. Surely he's favourite. It'd be interesting to see what the bookies think, and if any of the bookies are superstitious. But as we said, streaks came to an end. Verstappen's pole streak has come to an end. Will the curse come to an end? Hopefully it's a weekend of streaks ending. So maybe the fact that Verstappen didn't get pole ending a streak is a bit of future telling, let's say, for Charles Leclerc winning. But he's going to have to, before we do anything, he's going to have to get a fairly decent start, because this man, Oscar Piastri, is going to start alongside him. Now, I'm thinking it's probably much going to be a one-stop unless any weird weather happens. There's not really that much of a chance of rain, but Monaco is right near the sea. It kind of has its own climate, doesn't it? If anyone lives by the sea or goes on a holiday near the sea. So Piastri, there's nothing saying that he gets a better start than Leclerc, then makes life very, very difficult. And I think at that point it could be a very tactical race. I think if Leclerc gets into the lead in that first corner, I think he's good to go, barring any horrible safety car and Ferrari tactics from 2022. He's, potentially favourite. Having said that, Carlos Sainz could get, assuming he keeps his third position, which I think he will, he may well pass Piastri. And then obviously you've got Lando Norris as well, who put himself under a bit of pressure, didn't he? When it came to perform, we thought, where is he? And it seemed to be Piastri seems to have the edge, and in some of the practice sessions, the way you look at the way Piastri's driving the car, he has got a lot nearer the mark, a lot nearer the walls. He's clattered them as well, I think, as Norris has. But the body language of Piastri's car, it seems he's a bit more confident than Norris into this weekend, albeit you can get too confident and then you clatter the side of a barrier and that's your race over, as we saw with Valtteri Bottas in practice 3. And I don't understand why both of the stake F1 teams are right at the back. I don't get it, along with Perez. Fair play to Logan Sargent for not qualifying last. But other than Sergio Perez, which I wouldn't say is the biggest disappointment. The biggest disappointment for me is this guy here, Fernando Alonso, who is, though, blaming traffic. And he's suggested that they have phased stage qualifying. Probably because he got traffic, other people, did or didn't, or made up for it. I don't think we need that for it's part, I wouldn't say it's part of the fun, but it's part of the tactics of qualifying, isn't it? And it always has been in Monaco. And if that's the case, Fernando Alonso, unfortunately, was a victim to it. And this is the second time he's been underwhelming compared to, let's be fair, his slightly lesser talented teammate. So a bit of a surprise, really, from Fernando, being average Alonso. We saw average Alonso today and not Fernando Alonso, which was a bit of a shame, really. But there we go. So that's pretty much how we feel about qualifying. I mean, Hulkenberg 12th again. Ricciardo, disappointing because he's 13th and Tsunoda is 8th. I was hoping this weekend, with his Monaco experience, the fact that he's won here once, nearly could have done it twice, albeit for a Red Bull blunder pit stop, and he's looked good in qualifying here. But he needs to be confident in the car, and he was a good, at least nearly 3.5 tenths, maybe even more, between 3.5 to 4 tenths slower than Yuki Tsunoda, which is quite a significant amount in Monaco, and I've not seen any particular reason why. Anyway, I digress. This has been the Monaco qualifying edition. If you like what you see, please give us a thumbs up, give us a subscribe, give us a like. If you do one of them, you are a world champion. If you can do either, comment, made it to the end. Let us know. In our eyes, you'll be a multiple world champion. I'm really excited for this weekend. What a weekend of motorsport we've got. What a Monaco Grand Prix we've potentially got lined up. Charles Leclerc going into Monaco as favourite. Will we be saying that after the race? We shall see. Thank you very much.